we have greater potential to fight gravity and prevent injury than we've been taught. Here's why. Triple extension is a common exercise science term. That means the ankles, knees, and hips extend. There's extensive studies on this and endless programs that include these things. My programs include these things. But it wasn't until I started applying the same concept of measurable overload strength progression to flexing my ankle, flexing my knee, and flexing my hip that I fully overcame various foot, ankle, shin, knee, and hip issues, and in the process ran way faster and made a world-renowned jump transformation, which we're now seeing is the norm by addressing triple flexion. So Zero Dent Standards are the first programs that have ever addressed triple flexion with measurable progress. Let's take a look at the backstories. Despite making a lot of progress with my knees, I wasn't able to fully overcome knee issues, and I had horrible shin splints. So the more I powered up my knees, this was great, but I could not figure out my shin splints. So it was in the middle of the night with my wife, and she actually had the idea that solved it. And we went to the gym next day, and we started taping weights to my foot, single leg, like this. And then we would use floss bands, because we already had floss bands in the gym. This became a standard part of my program like 5 years ago. In that time, I did 10,000 plus reps of the wall version in zero. So you don't have to have anything to start this. I've done over 10,000 reps against the wall, strengthening this anterior tibialis. Starts on the knee, wraps around to the inside of the foot. And no, it's not the only thing for shin splints, but you could see if you're missing this entire area that, let's say I want to go do a 1 foot jump like Michael Jordan. Every 1 foot jump he ever did, he planted heel first. That means whatever that tibialis can't handle is coming up as undue force. So now think about a lifetime of lifting weights for everything but what am I doing right now? I am signaling to my body to be stronger here from the ground up. So I manufactured shin splints, and people around the world, everyone in exercise science, we're all manufacturing greater foot, ankle, shin, and knee problems because we're not training that area. This is my first prototype. If you're in the US, you think you can make it, let me know. Look how freaking simple that is, right? Just good old little thing there for the weights. This is just like some nice steel right there. I wanted Velcro. There's some great ones on the market. Don't assume you need this one either. I've made all my gains so far without this, got everything and more that I hope to, and can dunk so easily off one-legged jumps now, do all kinds of crazy stuff and never get shin splints, overcame all kinds of nasty chronic ankle issues, and can go extra hard without that force coming up into those patellar tendons. So the reason I just wanted to make this was mine and Alyssa's original idea 5 years ago, was just to use like Velcro, because Velcro, everyone knows how to use that. You could see how easy it was to change. Like, even if you don't know anything about exercise equipment, everyone knows Velcro. So my goal is to make this cheap and in the US. So since that, home gym guy reached out a couple years back, said, what needs to exist that doesn't? I said, a loaded tibialis bar. That would be the first place to start. So you can do this on 2 legs. If you don't have any prior issues, you could probably just load the 2-legged version. That concept of a 2-legged version, you don't have this same instability in the ankle. Okay, for past ankle injuries, this gets a whole nother level. But Bob Guida, 50 years ago, had the idea of a tibialis bar. So it's not even like, I'm not trying to take I don't get anything for inventing anything. That's not the idea. I'm just really good at looking at history and seeing what worked, seeing the clues, and being able to think outside of exercise science's box. So now what happens after years of this? Well, exactly what you think would happen. Better able to fight gravity, totally a breeze to fight injuries that used to seem impossible to figure out. Knee flexion. The coolest thing about this is the most successful method requires the least. This is 35 bucks on Amazon. This is 30 bucks on Amazon. This has been producing results for over 100 years. First published in 1880 by George Herbert Taylor with his Health by Exercise book. Now, you could bend your hips whatever you want to get started. Loading is loading. Your body only knows the load you can handle. So rather than just flopping down, that was my mistake starting out. I didn't know how to get into this because I was too weak, so I gave up on it. Now I've been averaging once a week for like 5 years. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think? Onyx, you want to get in here? I don't know if the camera can see him. What do you think is going to happen to Onyx if he starts when he's young and he tries to go like this once a week? okay? He's gonna have freakish knee protection compared to what I had. This attaches, this hamstring, the way this exercise works, attaches just like your ACL does, from the back of the thigh to the front of the knee. So you can mathematically put ACL tears more in your favor. And notice, think about a running stride. Think about a 1-foot jump. Think about Michael Jordan jumping from the foul line. Your leg is not straight. It's the biggest difference I see between terrible 1-foot jumpers and great 1-foot jumpers is the greats don't even have to think about it, and they can flex their knees. They can keep pulling the ground. So I'm still making gains on this today, not by getting fancier, not from $10,000 machines, from the cheapest in the business. The closer you get to the truth, the simpler it gets. So it's a beautiful thing that we can get world-class results. You can see my mom doing this on a real Nordic bench, which is still super cheap. They're like $600 on Rogue, and now they're making them for like $250. Many people are catching on and making them. Tons of people are making this stuff now that I'm showing in this video. And she would just lift her hips, whatever, bend her hips, whatever she has to. It's less load out and push back up. That's still tension. It's still signaling to your body. And over time, you can just get stronger. Now, can you go back up? Sure. It's just a whole separate category that comes. There's been some excellent examples from Adam Archuleta in football, taking himself from 16 years old, laughed at by college scouts, to a first-round NFL draft pick. Marty St. Louis, undrafted Stanley Cup champion, MVP, the greatest hockey longevity speed case ever, could explode up out of it like nothing. Now, with a setup like this, it's going to work a little different. Maybe you could go down to like a chest tap and pull back up. With a flat bench, you can explode out of your glutes and lift up. But I really think the way up is more like an expression. It teaches you how to move fast. That's not where the majority of the structural adaptation is. You don't have to feel bad if you're not doing that. I've had my most gains. What I'm doing now in dense right now is I'm just working on the way down. That seems to make it even easier to come back up. If you really put in the work, fighting down over time at the level you can control, then the coming back up, I think, will get even easier than if you waste time trying to worry about that. So knee flexion, you could also use hamstring curl machines. There's a number of good methods, but I believe this is the best. It's the most forceful, has the most adaptation, it's the simplest, and it gives you the most real measure of being able to control yourself down. So super grateful for this exercise, changed my life. You add this with the tibialis consistent for years, you change your odds from the ground up. You don't do this in relation to what you're building up here, down into the knee. Again, you're manufacturing a body. It's more likely to have knee surgery. Last but not least, hip flexors. Not surprisingly, even once I could dunk off 2 feet, I was still slow by comparison. Come to find out, the biggest muscular size difference between regular humans and elite sprinters, sure, there's a lot, hamstrings, glutes, stuff like that. Hip flexors are the biggest difference. And I had never had anyone tell me to train them with measurable overload. So this started by doing reverse squats, hooking up to a cable machine with a chic low ab strap. Mr. Infinity sells these now too, and putting measurable load on the cable. How much weight can I get up with those hip flexors? And then COVID hit. So in Zero, we worked on the L-sit. That's really cool because it gives you this super honest test. And I think that'll work great for some time, but I do think you'll want to be looking at finding a method. Zero is awesome that you can make gains with literally nothing. But during that time, you want to be finding how to craft your routine. Something like this I can use the rest of my life for my tibialis and for my hip flexors. So Monkey Foot was awesome and came out with something similar to this. It loads dumbbells at your heel, and it's really good, but it doesn't quite work for the tibialis. And I wanted something that could just do both. Tibialis and hip flexors. So see, this would give us something that we can have like a measurable, comparable load that you could be anywhere in the world and know what you do compared to others. You even get an awesome little end range glute workout out of that. But the point is, I've trained so many athletes who have good weight room numbers, and they come to me because they're slow. They're slow-footed. That's because it's literally harder for them to pick up their legs, and they've gone into the weight room and they've created a body that is more of a struggle to move around because the hip flexors have to pick up those legs. So the way you really transform athleticism is by jacking up triple extension. For sure, that's my whole career, I'm knees over toes guy. That's one of the 3 triple extensors. But you add in that ankle, knee, hip flexion. Now you have a real route to see what you're made of. And so that's what I've done. I've been able to see what I'm made of. I'm still getting more athletic each year in my 30s, which is just, it's completely surreal. And helping others feel that and experience that, well, that's how I obtain my happiness in my job, in my career. Not gonna force my kid into this stuff. Let him observe and do what he wants. And my goal is just to still be able to dunk when he can. Just from hanging out with daddy, he'll definitely be able to dunk. So that gives me something that keeps me focused. There's absolutely no freaking way that I'll be dunking when I'm 50 without triple extension and without triple flexion. So that's what my programs do, among other things. They are the world's first programs to address triple flexion with measurable overload. Hope this helps.